Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Women of Color in Intimate Conversation. This week's guest is Dr. Amelia Duran-Stanton. She is the author of The Lotus Within, Grow Your Purpose and Ignite Your Passion. Dr. Amelia, welcome. Your
Thank you.
journey is so inspiring. How do you personally define who you are beyond the titles and accolades?
Hi, Deneen. Thank you for having me for Women of Color. I'm excited to be here. So thank you so much for asking that question because it's so important. So first, I would think that I'm very passionate about empowering women, and also I want them to embrace their full potential. So that's the reason why I wrote the book. And as a different roles that we have for myself, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a soldier, I'm a leader. I understand all of the challenges that we face in balancing all of those roles. That's why I've dedicated myself and also in supporting and a lifelong learning in mentoring other women, especially those that are often underrepresented. And also I've spent over 32 years in the military, and my journey from enlisted to colonel, it's given me a different perspective in resilience, leadership, and also purpose. It's not always about the rank or the title that we have. It's about the impact that we have with others. And finally, I see myself as a storyteller. I love hearing stories from family members on how we came about. And I believe in the power of sharing our stories and our struggles. So with the Lotus Within, it's a way for me to take my experience and turn them into tools so that other women can grow and also live their lives with strategic planning, time management, and prioritization.
Yeah, so the title itself, The Lotus Within, is so powerful. What brought you to that title specifically?
So what happened was I love flowers to begin with, and then I'm also very passionate about people blooming where they're planted.
Oh, I love that.
And then the lotus flower itself is it represents growth and resilience because, as you know, the lotus flower grows in mud,
Mm.
and it's a symbolism and ability to rise from adversity, and also it remains pure and it blooms despite the challenges it faces. And in my career and my life, I've often found myself navigating through those environments like the lotus flower. And whenever I talk to other women in talking about what my passion is and what I wanted to do to help them, many of the things that I thought about when I talked to them is it came out to be that lotus flower, because we're sometimes not everybody has the means to go fly all over the world or change their lifestyle. But if you bloom where you're planted, even though in the mud and it's dark, that's what lotus, that flower specifically signifies. And also, I was brainstorming with a friend, and then I came up with the acronym for the Lotus. So it's lifetime of timeless, unbound strategies. So it's also an acronym and also the flower.
Okay, I love all of that. And I especially love Bloom Where You're Planted. I remember being in a role, the role, of course, I didn't like. It was just hectic. And then I said, you know what? This is where I am right now. So let me
Right.
focus on it, blooming where I am. And, right? It was an and. And as a matter of fact, it came from a conversation I had with someone, and she was talking about how in the Bible, the 40 years, when, wandering, and was basically saying that they didn't have to wander. Like if they would have kind of bloomed where they were planted. And so,
Right.
I thought about that. And I said, you know what? This is where I'm at. So there's no need to wander. Let me
Mhm.
focus on where I'm at. Let me put the energies into that and also put in the work to go to where I wanted to be. And things turned around
Absolutely.
for me after that. Right. And it's really about your perspective, which I'm sure
Mhm.
you write about in your book.
Yes.
So let's kind of talk about, you mentioned leadership, you mentioned resilience and purpose. So as you said, you served over 30 years in the U.S. Army, rising from enlisted to colonel. What's one defining leadership lesson you learned along the way?
So to me, the main thing based on my experience in the time frame that it went by fast.
Yeah.
So it's about influence. So I think it's earning trust and also showing empathy to the people you're leading, because it's
Mhm.
really not about, again, the title or the rank. It's, do they trust you, and are you willing to be vulnerable with your team? Are you willing to tell them, hey, I messed up yesterday, I'm sorry, versus, brush it off and say, oh well, I messed up. But it's the ownership of being human. And also, it's not about being perfect, it's that authenticity and also demonstrating integrity, because they'll know. We live in a glass house when you're in a leadership position, so everybody sees what you're doing, personal or professionally. So through your actions and leading with purpose, they will follow you wherever you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks are always watching, right? Whether
Yeah.
you're in a leadership position or anything, they're always watching. They're not necessarily speaking on it, but people are watching and paying attention to what you're doing. So it is definitely up to us individually to decide, well, what do we want people to see? What do we want people to know about us?
Yes.
And this podcast is about women of color. It's about empowering women of color to live their dream lifestyles. You've talked about how your book is for, and the things that you do, how you live your life is to empower and help historically marginalized, underrepresented people. So, women of color in leadership in general, we face unique challenges. What barriers have you personally had to break through?
Very good question. And it really dives into what we need to talk about, because there are certain things that we kind of like brush through, but
Yeah.
this one definitely, as a woman of color in a predominantly male environment. I mean, I'm in the army, for goodness sake.
Right.
The population is only 1%, and then 1% of that is even smaller, and then being a colonel, it's like 0.0001.
Hmm.
So in that environment, I've had to challenge stereotypes. I think that's the main thing that I would think about, and overcoming biases. Like whenever I come into a room, uh, when I'm in uniform, they have, and the rank, they see that. But if I come in civilian clothes, they see me. I'm Asian. I'm female. I'm smaller than most of the men. There's stereotypes that they think that I will not be a good leader. Pretty much is the projection of their biases. So it's more breaking down barriers for myself, and I've always tried to focus on opening doors for others.
Yeah.
So, and I also tend to gravitate towards leaders that do the same. So
Mm.
I love reading biographies of senior leaders, especially women, like General West. I'm sure you're familiar with her. General West was the first African American female Surgeon General for the Army. She's like the epitome of a leader to me. She was stern and also was able to communicate effectively and also approachable. So those are the things that I think about. Collectively, when I succeeded, it was more that the others saw the possibility for
Yeah.
themselves too. And I think the senior leaders that I've had have done the same for me, and I want to pay it forward by doing the same for others. And it's always, how many people can I bring up with me is what my main intent is. Not just women, not just minorities, but I think for everyone that has proven themselves and have shown potential.
Yeah, and so something that I'm hearing throughout this conversation is that you are bringing others along. Like what you're doing is not just for yourself, it's
Mhm.
also for other people. And it might even be a little bit more important for you to do for others as opposed to just for yourself. And I think that that's something, I mean, definitely I admire that. It reminds me of when I was in corporate, my chief diversity officer, there was an acronym HASU, HASU, hook a sister up. So,
I love it.
right, hook a sister up. And so basically what you're saying, bring others along.
Yeah.
You're in when you, especially when you have, like I believe that when you're given a lot, a lot is expected of you. And so for those people who lean into that, I mean, big ups to them, right? Truly admire those people. And it sounds like that's you. And by being you, being that person, you've also attracted other people who are the same way. So I love that.
Mhm.
So, of course, I know you're mentoring, you're coaching, right? Because it just sounds like it's natural, it's a given. What's the biggest mindset shift women need to step into leadership confidently? Like, what do we need to, how do we need to start thinking differently to be confident leaders?
Yes, I think the biggest shift is embracing your worth and realizing that your voice matters. You can't be that meek person on the side of the table. In fact, be at the table. Find yourself to be on that table to make sure that you voice your opinion. So too often, women, especially women of color, hold back,
Mm-hmm.
and they fear judgment or doubt themselves and their ability to lead. It's that imposter syndrome. But leadership isn't about being perfect. It's just showing up and also being confident and willing to learn. And I definitely encourage women to stop waiting to be given permission to do these and start leading where you are.
Yeah. So that going back to that bloom where you're planted, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And another thing too, so women in corporate in particular, right? I'm sure it happens in your field as well, is that for an example, there's a job opportunity. Women, we're like, oh, let me check what's required. Oh, only meet like
Yeah.
five of those things. So we
Yeah.
don't go for it.
I know. Like it's not. They're not gonna pick me, so I'm not even gonna try.
Right. And I'm like this. If you want it, go for it. Like I don't even really care what the requirements are. It's really about if you want it, because if you want it, you're going to put in the work to make it happen.
Right.
And so that's what I say. If you, I was talking to someone, she's like, oh, I want to, do this. The role is available, but I'm not going to go for it just yet. Well, why? I wanted, I asked her questions
Absolutely.
because I wanted to make sure that her reason for not going for it yet was not what I just said. I wanted her reasons to, like, what are those reasons? I don't want you to think the imposter syndrome. I don't want her to, I didn't want her to think that, oh, I'm not worthy of it, or like, no, I don't want it just yet. Oh, okay, well, good. As if that's the reason, that's fine. But if it were those other things, no, absolutely. Do you want it? And if the answer is yes, I say go for it.
Yep. I
And
agree.
so you mentioned imposter syndrome. I
Yes.
just mentioned imposter syndrome. Have you experienced it personally? And if so, how did you push past it?
I think it's ingrained in us. I think it will never go away, but in a way, it's not a bad thing
Yeah.
because then you keep yourself humble. So yes, absolutely, I've experienced imposter syndrome. In the military, there were many times that I doubted myself. Am I enough?
Hmm.
Am I the right rank for this position? Because we compete for these jobs, and there's the cream of the crop are the ones that are chosen. So to be taken seriously, especially as I move up in the ranks, I have to remind myself that imposter syndrome is a sign that you're pushing boundaries. You're pushing the envelope because when you're feeling as if you're inadequate, you have to focus on the facts, the 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 quantitative information. What's my accomplishments, my dedication, and also the value that I bring to the table. And also, I lean on a lot of mentors, and they remind me that I'm deserving. So a little pick me up from another person, or just your accountability partner, or your sister, or whoever it is. And it's always not easy. So pushing past those feelings and also leaning into your strengths and also owning your space. So I
Yeah.
think that's a way that we can negate the experience and the feeling of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. Owning your space. I love that. And so you mentioned, that you do reach out to your mentors. And so, you know, I've read and I do believe that, have a board of directors, have,
Mhm.
have your team of people who support you and have different people, right? Have
Right.
people who think differently, who look differently, because you want those different perspectives to help you as you navigate, especially when
Right.
you're in, such a competitive space as yourself, and then in corporate wanting to go higher, you do need those other people to kind of weigh in and to help you to move along.
Yep. And also you don't have to be the smartest person at the table. You just have to know who to reach out to, who the subject matter experts are, depending on where you are.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Knowing who to reach out to.
Yeah.
Like that's the knowledge.
That's right.
Right. So your career spans military service, medicine, and education. How do you balance purpose and passion across multiple disciplines?
For me, you mentioned it. It's about that purpose. What am I here for? Because
Yeah.
if I'm in the wrong room, I shouldn't be there. So there's a lot, like you said, the Army, the medicine, education. I also do research. I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of writing. It's always about serving others. And I've learned the balance really is everything doesn't have to be perfect. It means aligning your passions and also with your core purpose, which to me it's always been helping other people. And I found fulfillment in each of those, because even with every part of those roles, it's always lifting somebody else up
Mm-hmm.
and also leaving that legacy of positive impact. And also balancing them requires intentional time management and that prioritization that I mentioned, and also an understanding that sometimes you'll need to let go of perfection. You can only do so much in the time that you're allotted.
Yeah, and again, what I'm hearing, the theme is that you're driven by your purpose, and your purpose is to impact others, to bring others along, to
Absolutely.
push others forward. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because yeah, you just mentioned a lot. Like, I'm doing all these different things, and even
Yeah.
in those things, it's a
Mhm.
lot to that. And so, how do you find a time in what you is your passion? Your passion is driving you, it's moving you forward.
Yes, so a lot of it is I identify what I have to be there myself in person or virtual. And
Mm-hmm.
then I look at the tasks. It's basically triaging as a medical term, is figuring out which one. And then the other is which ones can I delegate? Which
Yeah.
one it has to be done, but it doesn't have to be me. And I can't expect it to be 100% the way I would do it. So I'm good with 80%. And also, whenever you delegate, you're also helping develop that individual that you delegated to build confidence, and then you're guiding them along the way to completion. So that's another way of mentoring. And then the other is, if it's not important, maybe you're not the one. Maybe you give it to somebody else that's more qualified. Like, thank you for the invitation. However, I'm not qualified. I recommend X. Or it's something that's really not within your wheelhouse. I know I can't do it. Sorry. So so those are the triage of the
Right,
four.
right.
Is it me?
And I'm going to throw this one in here too. I was
Yeah.
just on a call right before a wellness call, and this woman was saying, like, yeah, I don't want to. So with that as
I love
well.
it.
Yeah, don't want to
Yeah,
do it.
that's right. I don't want to do
No,
it. I'm not doing it. Thank you.
right?
I think that should be like when you're doing a decision tree. I think that's number one. Do I really want to do this?
Right. No, so like kind of start, and that goes to knowing what it is that you want, right?
Yes,
Out of life, how you want your life to be.
that's
So
right.
for those who are watching, those who are listening, so we are talking about resilience, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about purpose. And so Dr. Amelia has written a book, The Lotus Within. And so a lot of what we're talking about is in her book, or help to form the book itself. So Dr. Amelia, what's one practical step women can take today to
Mhm.
start living with more purpose?
Sure. I've done a few of these, but the one that I really wanted to hone on is focus on yourself. Because a
Yes.
lot of times you're focusing on your child, you're focusing on your spouse, you're focusing on other things. Focus on yourself and reflect. So one simple and profound step is every day you can focus on yourself by doing a reflection. In the military, we call it an AAR, after action review. What happened yesterday? How did you do yesterday? What went well? What needs improvement? And what can you do better? And then for today, take 5 minutes to ask yourself, what am I grateful for? What's my purpose? It's so easy to get into that lost in that hustle every day, right? Because there's things to do. People want you in different places, but you need to pause and connect and figure out what you're here for, right? And start living with intention. So purpose isn't a distant goal. It's really carrying yourself every day and every moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Purpose, connecting with yourself, putting yourself first. I mean, that is so important. And we've forgotten that. A lot of us has forgotten
Yes.
that. And that's why there's such a buzz around self-care and self-love and all those
Mhm.
things. It's because
Right. And burnout.
Yeah, burnout, like we forgot about ourselves. It's like, oh, me,
Yes.
I'm here. No, yes, you have to take care of you first. That's why on the plane, what do they say? Put your mask on
Yeah.
first. So,
That's
and that's
right.
real,
That's right.
right? It's
I
real.
love that. Yeah.
So what's next for you? Any upcoming projects or initiatives you're
Yeah.
excited about?
Sure. So I'm excited to continue growing the conversations on the Lotus Within.
Yes.
So I did a couple of book signings already locally, and I have a couple more coming up. And the book is available on major online bookstores like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Books a Million, and also locally. And also I would like to do some executive coaching in the future. So I'm prepping myself for that, and I already built a course on it that's based on the book. Actually, the course came before the book.
Okay.
It's just that I want to share this to as many women as I can. And I think at some point you have to say, even guys can benefit from this.
Mhm.
And it's a gift for those men that have somebody important in their lives that, hey, you need to read this. It's a spouse or whoever, or even for themselves. So I think for the most part, it's always what I can do to help other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And great point about other people can benefit. And that is the case, even though, things are like maybe focused for a certain group, but anyone can benefit, right? I have people who listen like Ukraine, like who's listening to women of color in Ukraine?
Right.
Like, it's like, okay.
Okay, aren't you like being bombed or
Yeah, I'm like, right. I'm like, okay then. But
that's
that's just the point.
wonderful.
Like everybody can learn something from someone. Like
Yes.
take what you want to take, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to take it all. But take what you want to take, right? And then even come back for a little bit more. So you can do that as well. So I definitely will share in the show notes. We will have links to how to stay connected with you,
Yes.
your website, social media, all the things.
Yes. And I also have a blog that I've been covering every Sunday. The
Okay.
book. So I've started that as recommended by my publisher. So because the book is a workbook. It's not just read it and say, oh, got it. Thanks for the information. It's you have homework.
Right. There's
You need
work
to
to
go
do.
in there and journal and write things down and reflect, and it's actionable, and it gives you all kinds of things that will help you now and help you for your future.
Yeah, I was just looking through. So we have the website, you're on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Amazon. So
Right.
we have
I'm
you.
everywhere. You can't avoid me now.
You can't stay away like
That's
that.
right. Here I am.
All right. So before we wrap, what one final message? What's your advice to women of color striving for leadership and impact? So what you haven't shared already, what would you like to
Sure.
leave us with?
Stand firm in your identity. Never doubt your worth. And also, leadership is about making space for yourself and creating that kind of change you want to see, right? You can't. I learned this when I became a major because we like to complain. We like to say so and so is not doing something up there. And then one of my senior leaders said, you can't say that anymore because it's you now. I'm like, oh, you can't
You're that
complain
someone.
anymore. Yeah.
You got someone
Yes,
up there.
that's right. Because you are the one that's up there now. You can't complain anymore. So be the solution that you're looking for. And don't wait for opportunities, create them.
Yes.
And always remember that your voice matters and your experience are valuable, and you have the power to lead with purpose and passion, no matter what challenges are ahead of you.
Snap, 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 snap.
That's right.
Love all of that.
That's right.
Well, Dr. Amelia Duran-Stanton, thank you so much for lending your voice on women of color in intimate conversation, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Deneen.
You're welcome.